Not think the storm is over when the wind slows down. The storm surge will rush in and could kill you.
Florida is feeling the fury of Hurricane Irma. Powerful winds snap cranes off skyscrapers, and torrential downpours and storm surges are leaving cities in waters waist deep. And volunteers from Northwest Missouri are in Florida now, ready to help families displaced by the devastating storm.
From KQTV St. Joseph, this is KQ2 News at 10.
Here is a live look from Miami. Things have quieted down a little bit from earlier today, but this is where Irma began tearing through the South Florida city. The storm blasted the city with wind gusts up to 100 miles per hour and higher, along with torrential downpour. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Alan Van Zandt. We'll start out tonight by checking in with meteorologist Ryan Rose for the latest on Irma that is continuing this evening to make its way up Florida's Gulf Coast. Ryan.
That's exactly right, Alan. In fact, take a look at this hurricane. The eye right now is centered just south of Tampa. It is moving north. It is a Category 2 hurricane with winds of about 100 miles per hour. Check out how much rain we're talking about, covering practically the entire state of Florida, extending north into portions of Georgia and South Carolina. And we do have tornado watches, hurricane warnings still in effect. We take things up the coast, wind advisories, tropical storm warnings for pretty much all of Georgia, and even high wind watch and wind advisories that extend into the Carolinas and into Tennessee. I'll be talking about its track along with our own forecast coming up in just a few minutes. Alan?
All right, thanks, Ryan. Irma made landfall in the U.S. just after 9 a.m. Eastern time this morning in the lower Florida Keys. Since then, the storm's been on a destructive path up Florida's west coast, bringing heavy winds, massive amounts of rain, storm surges, and possible tornadoes to the Sunshine State. For many communities, the worst still to come. ABC's Marcy Gonzalez is in Tampa with more.
Good evening. We are just getting pounded by the rain here. The wind is so strong. Fire Rescue says if there's an emergency, they will not respond because it is just too dangerous.
Hurricane Irma battering the Sunshine State. Wind gusts topping 140 miles an hour, tearing the roof off this building.
Oh my God!
Toppling trees and construction cranes, snapping power lines. First making landfall in Florida in the Keys, then again on the West Coast. The monstrous storm impacting the entire state. Streets flooded in Miami. Tornadoes touching down in Central Florida.
I ran screaming through the glass door closed.
And the major concern overnight on the Gulf Coast, the storm surge, with the hurricane sucking water out of canals in Tampa Bay before sending it rushing back in. In Naples, neighborhoods underwater, but still a sigh of relief.
Still rising water in the city of Naples.
At this shelter there, one of 500 open across the state, Irma's fury on full display, cracking the front door and knocking out electricity.
Pandemonium. We were very nervous, very scared.
And now about a third of people here in Florida are without power as Irma keeps moving up the coast. Marcy Gonzalez, ABC News, Tampa, Florida.
President Donald Trump is back in Washington, D.C. tonight and was briefed by the FEMA administrator about the storm.
Hour of this hurricane. This is probably, I saw somebody said 57 years. Now, who knows what that means, but it's just about the biggest ever recorded that hit land, and unfortunately, we got it.
Governors from Alabama, South Carolina, Georgia, and Tennessee also spoke with the president. Trump says the White House is monitoring the situation around the clock and plans to visit Florida very soon to survey relief efforts. While federal officials determine long-term relief efforts, local agencies wasting no time in sending in help. KQ2's Brooke Anderson is live in studio with more on how the local Red Cross is helping with current shelter needs and standing by for recovery after the storm passes.
Thanks, Alan. The Red Cross deployed. The Northwest Missouri Red Cross deployed over a dozen volunteers to Florida days before the storm was expected to hit the coast. One volunteer described the scene as catastrophic, devastating, and historic.
Hurricane Irma barreled its way through Florida Sunday, leaving catastrophic damage in its wake. One local citizen, Sherry Odell, said her home in Fort Myers will most likely be lost.
You know, I tell myself it's a house and it's stuff, nothing that is not replaceable. And as long as, you know, my family's safe,
Odell is a facility supervisor for the Red Cross and is currently deployed to Orlando, where she is taking shelter in a hotel. Odell described the scene, saying the hotel is booked to capacity with evacuees.
We have people even sleeping on cots in the ballroom, and the hotel has been gracious and allowed all the evacuees to bring in their pets. So there are dogs and cats everywhere.
Odell said the rain started bucketing down around 12:30 Sunday afternoon.
Imagine a really good storm back in St. Joseph and, Midwest Missouri. That's kind of what it's like right now.
The Northwest Missouri Red Cross deployed over a dozen volunteers to Florida before the storm had made landfall.
We stage volunteers and supplies in advance so that we're ready to be there immediately.
The Red Cross has 460 shelters in Florida and several more throughout 6 other states, in addition to Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. 127,000 people evacuated to a Red Cross shelter in Florida over Saturday night.
This is significant. This is historic. This will be catastrophic and devastating.
The Red Cross says several volunteers are still responding to Hurricane Harvey relief efforts in Texas. To find out more about how to volunteer or how to donate, visit redcross.org. Reporting in studio, Brooke Anderson, KQ2, your local news leader.
All right, thanks, Brooke. One woman with family ties to St. Joseph has taken shelter in Florida for the hurricane and spoke to KQ2 this afternoon. Leslie Schlottefeld evacuated her home in Cape Coral and took shelter at the Southwest Florida International Airport in Fort Myers. Schlottefeld sent in some videos from when the brunt of Irma arrived in the city around 5:30 this evening. That's what you're seeing now. The airport is not an evacuation site, but staff are letting employees and their families take shelter there.
We took care of each other, and there's a lot of friends from the Midwest that have, oh my gosh, waves are splashing over the end of the runway here, and I'm seeing, there are waves that are lapping up. It almost looks like we're on the beach, on the edges of the runways out there.
Nearly 200 people, along with their pets, have evacuated to the airport. Wind, rain, and flooding not the only threats to Florida as Hurricane Irma approaches. The state is also experiencing a major gas shortage that continues to get worse. Nearly 65% of gas stations in cities like Miami and Fort Lauderdale were already out of gas before the storm arrived. The situation now only expected to get worse in coming days. There's also signs the massive demand for fuel is spreading north to Georgia and the Carolinas. And check out this digital representation of the airspace above the United States from earlier tonight and a tracking of airplanes in flight. As you can see, pilots steering totally clear of Irma in Florida. The state is home to some of the nation's busiest airports, and flight cancellations have topped 12,500 already. That number will only continue to grow in coming days. The man who shot Ronald Reagan when he was president is walking free tonight. Details on why a judge said John Hinckley Jr. was fit to be released. That when we return. Also ahead, Senator John McCain opening up about his battle with brain cancer. Up next, what he revealed about his prognosis in his first TV interview since undergoing treatment.
Plus, we had a beautiful day today. More of that is on the way. I'll have details coming up in just a bit.
You're watching KQ2 News at 10.
Welcome back. Here now, a live look at Tampa. That city's been seeing increasing winds through the evening and is bracing for the worst of Irma, which could happen in just the next couple of hours or so as the eye is approaching. Hurricane's expected to be the first to directly hit Tampa in close to a century. Half the city sits close to sea level, so it's especially vulnerable to storm surge. Scientists have warned a storm like Irma could mean disaster. Mayor Bob Buckhorn says this morning the city was ready, but only as ready as it could be.
We know that we are ground zero for Hurricane Irma. We have for 90 years avoided this day, but I think our day has come. Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. Well, we're about to get punched in the face.
The hurricane's also spawning possible tornadoes as one's believed to have touched down in Fort Lauderdale, scattering debris, ripping down power lines, and snapping and splitting trees. Well, I caught myself much of the weekend watching CNN, watching the Weather Channel, just all that hurricane coverage that's going on. It's really been something to see the bays lose all the water and totally empty as the storm passes, and then it's going to come back on the backside and fill it back up again and then some.
Really interesting how, and really devastating, really
for
sad
sure.
to see. So,
well, where are we now?
Well, I'll tell you what. I'm going to start off by taking a look at our almanac. here. 85 today, 57 our low, 81 the normal high, normal low 56, and record high 99. And that was set back in 1936, record low 35, set back in 1976. And of course, Hurricane Irma, what we have going on right now, like we've already mentioned, the eye is just south of Tampa, and that is where the strongest winds are. It's right around the eye, called the eye wall. But check out this storm from coast to coast, covering practically the entire state of Florida. Miami saw some heavy rain, as well as Jacksonville seeing some heavy rain. And all this rain is extending north into Georgia and in the Carolinas. And of course, tornado watches. We have a flood warning and a hurricane warning for Florida, and a lot of this tropical storm warning in effect for most of Georgia. And some of that hurricane warning even extends into Georgia. Wind advisories, high wind watch as well for portions of the South Carolina, and wind advisory for portions of North Carolina and Tennessee. So this is a big deal, a big storm as well. Now, as we put a track on this, it's a Category 2 right now. It will decrease to a Category 1 and eventually into a tropical storm and then just a tropical depression. But it will continue to move north. Atlanta's going to see a lot of rain out of this, and it's going to move west a little bit before turning back to the north and east in the next couple of days, and it'll eventually fizzle out, and we'll really be left with nothing. But again, for us, beautiful weather. 85 was our high today, and many spots across the Midwest in the low to mid 80s. Really beautiful, and even beautiful right now. Clear sky, 72 degrees in St. Joseph, upper 60s, Mound City, and up in Maryville as well. Now, as we take things hour by hour for us, nothing but what we've been seeing over the last several days. A lot of sunshine to be had. In fact, here you can see some of that hurricane may be approaching portions of southeast Missouri. Not going to be affecting our weather. That's going to continue to push away after it does get closer for us. So tonight, 57 degrees, clear skies as we head into the day tomorrow. 82, our high temperature, with lots of sunshine, plenty of sunshine to be had, and temperatures do stay in the 80s, and mid 80s. We may be in for a little bit of a warm up as we head towards the weekend, introducing about a 20% chance for a little bit of rain, but it almost makes you feel a little guilty with all of this nice weather that we've been seeing.
What we're seeing down there versus a great September week for us. All right,
exactly.
Thanks, Ryan. Yeah. Well, Senator John McCain is opening up about his personal battle with brain cancer, offering his first public TV interview since revealing his diagnosis.
Fact is, you know, I'm facing a challenge, but I've faced other challenges, and I'm very confident about getting through this one as well.
McCain also sounded off on a number of issues he hopes to address, including the president's decision to end the DACA program. McCain said the country needs a comprehensive plan to protect dreamers, and he hopes Congress acts quickly.
It is not conscionable to tell young people who came here as children that they have to go back to a country that they don't know. And by the way, there's 900 of these dreamers that are serving in uniform in the United States military.
The Trump administration announced last week it was giving Congress 6 months to come up with a fix for the Obama-era program. The man who shot and wounded President Ronald Reagan has been released. John Hinckley Jr. left from a psychiatric hospital today. Hinckley was committed after shooting Reagan and 3 others back in 1981. Doctors now say Hinckley has recovered from his mental illness. A federal judge ruled he should be allowed to live with his mother in Virginia. Hinckley will have to volunteer or find a job and stay away from victims' families. President Donald Trump has revealed his pick to be the top federal law enforcer in Kansas. Stephen McAllister is Trump's nominee to be the state's next U.S. attorney. The University of Kansas professor currently serves as the state's Solicitor General. McAllister clerked for 2 Supreme Court justices and has worked at KU since 1993. His nomination will need to be confirmed by a U.S. Senate vote. Still ahead at 10, key members of President Trump's cabinet are at the FEMA Command Center tonight. What they're learning about the impact Harvey and Irma will have on their departments when we return. Also ahead, Coast Guard crews stationed up and down the Gulf Coast right now. Coming up, the vital role they will play in Irma recovery efforts. Welcome back. Federal officials are working around the clock in response to Hurricane Irma. FEMA's Washington, D.C. headquarters now ground zero for determining how to move forward with the historic amounts of damage Irma is expected to leave behind. Many of Trump's cabinet members are there tonight figuring out how to handle the situation in Florida while also continuing to provide Harvey relief.
Well, we've had as many as 1,000 federal law officers in Houston and Texas area. Some of those were coming home, and now we're prepared. We've got 500 now committed to Florida, and as many more as is needed will be made available.
As FEMA oversees the situation from afar in Washington, the Coast Guard are along the Gulf Coast preparing to reposition at a moment's notice. Many air crews are now stationed in Savannah, Georgia, awaiting rescue and recovery missions dealing with Irma. Crews don't know exactly where they'll be going just yet to perform tasks like water rescues, but once hurricane force winds subside and damage assessments come in, they will be ready to respond, they say.
What part of the country? We're all Americans. We all come from different parts of the country. So when another part of the country is hurting, we're going to respond because somebody from here is from that section as well. And so as they get prepared for this, I've watched our crews train, prepare, get the buildup done.
In addition to permitting rescue operations, Coast Guard crews will also restore waterways affected by Irma and resume the flow of maritime commerce. In sports, just when you think the Royals are done, today Kansas City moved a game closer to the Twins in the wild card race. Coming up, the offense gets it done against Minnesota's Bartolo Colon. Stay tuned.
You're watching KQ2 News at 10. Now, KQ2 Sports with Chris Roush.
With just about 3 weeks left in the regular season, the clock is ticking on the Kansas City Royals, and they entered the day 3.5 behind Minnesota for a second wildcard spot. Bartolo Colon coming out 3 straight quality starts, taking on the Royals this afternoon. Bottom 2, though, tied at 1. All City's Escobar up at 2 on, 1 out. Escobar singles the right center, driving in both runs. Royals go up 3-1 in this ball game at this point. Now, next batter, Alex Gordon at the dish. He likes to swing at the first pitch. This time it pays off. Left center field gap. That gets down. Escobar standing on first. He's coming around all the way to score. Royals, they go up 4-1. KC beating up on Bartolo Colon this afternoon. Rough outing for him. Now next batter, Whit Merrifield. Merrifield takes one to the gap in right center. Gordon scores. Royals take a 5-1 lead. Colon just an inning and 2/3, 6 hits, 6 runs. The Royals cruise. They split the series with Minnesota as the Royals win 11-3. Jason Vargas goes 5, picks up the victory, lodges 4 hits, 1 run, strikes out 3. Colon takes the loss. He's now 6-12 with a 6.41 ERA. And for Kansas City, Brandon Moss went 2 for 4, 3-run home with a 3-run home run. Now after the game, Royals first baseman Eric Hosmer talked about what's next for this team.
You just basically try and focus on each day. You know, you come in and prepare for whoever we're facing that day. So it's a nice streak. We're getting some wins, and you know, we did a good job of evening out this series. And you know, we realize there's not a lot of time left, so there's definitely a sense of urgency in here to do what we can to get some wins, pull them together.
So let's take a look at the AL wildcard standings. Royals sitting in 5th right now, only 2.5 games back in this one of Minnesota. Kansas City starts a 3-game series with the White Sox tomorrow night. First pitch at 7:15 from Kauffman Stadium. Yadier Molina and the Cardinals take on the Pirates this afternoon. Bottom 3rd, Molina at the plate, 2 runners on it. He sends one to the left off of Von Nova for a 3-run home run just inside the foul pole for his 17th home run of the season. Molina and the Cards take a 4-0 lead over the Pirates. Also for Molina, kind of a cool idea for him right here. Benji Molina, his brother in the broadcast booth, congratulating Molina on his 3-run home run. Also bottom 4, same score, Randall Grichuk at the plate with no runners on. Grichuk sends a solo shot to right center field. His 20th home run of the year. The Cardinals roll this afternoon. They win by a final of 7-0. So the Cards take care of business, shutting out the Bucks. Michael Wacha goes 8 innings of scoreless ball, strikes out 7. He improves to 12-7 on the year, while Nova falls to 11-13, giving up 5 runs. So the National League wild card, it's basically Milwaukee and St. Louis. They're chasing that second wild card spot. Both of them sitting 3 games back of Colorado for the second spot. St. Louis gets a day off tomorrow before starting a week game set with the Reds at Busch Stadium. Well, with the Chiefs playing on Thursday, getting the victory over New England 42-27, Kansas City got 9 days off until its Week 2 matchup with Philadelphia next Sunday. But another AFC West opponent in action today.
Marshawn Lynch making his Oakland Raiders debut. He went for 80 yards on the ground, but a story. Derek Carr, back from his injury, finds Amari Cooper. That connection, that's dangerous, Chiefs fans. This duo could be dangerous later this year. They'll go up 7-0 at this point. Now later, fourth quarter, Raiders up 16-13. Carr to Seth Roberts, touchdown. Carr goes 262 and 2 touchdowns. Oakland wins 26-16. And tomorrow night, the usual Monday Night Football doubleheader, Saints at Vikings at 6:10. The game AFC West fans need to worry about the Chargers-Broncos. That's the second game of the doubleheader. That one kicks off at 9:20 from Mile High Stadium. And then looking ahead to next Sunday, we're still a week out, though. Week 2, the Chiefs welcome the Eagles of Philadelphia to Arrowhead Stadium. Eagles defeated Washington this afternoon 30-17. Kickoff from Arrowhead next Sunday is set for 12 noon. That's a look at sports. We'll be right back.
Here is another look, a live look from Tampa, Florida, as Hurricane Irma, the eye wall just getting ready to move into the city. Storms expected to continue up the Gulf Coast and leave behind record amounts of damage. What they're really worried about in Tampa is that storm surge. As the hurricane was moving north, it sucked all the water out of Tampa Bay, and as it gets on the other side, then it's going to come back, and storm surge are saying several feet.
Right, and then the problem with Tampa, as we've already mentioned before, is it's right on sea level as well. So the issue there, but for us, we are dealing with beautiful weather, a little bit on the spoiled side, down to 57, our expected low temperature tonight, and we're going to see nothing but clear skies. Now, as we head on the day tomorrow, we did make it to 85 today. We're going to drop it a couple degrees, and 82 degrees, our high temperature tomorrow with nothing but sunshine, and really that's the main story over the next several days, mostly sunny skies. Right on through the end of the week. Now as we head towards Saturday and Sunday next week, we're going to be introducing our chances for a little bit of rain possibly, but temperatures do stay in the mid-80s.
We'll check out that forecast for Arrowhead on Sunday. Kind of tough, all that football today, no Chiefs. They already had a win in the bank already.
9 days off, but they'll be ready to go next Sunday.
All right, have a good night. We'll see you tomorrow.